Needs Cohort 4, Kurt Parchment, Gifted Case Study. Student 1 is the subject of this case study. He has the following characteristics: African American male, 17 years old, enrolled in a non-traditional high school, originally identified in first grade as intellectually gifted, socioeconomically disadvantaged, gifted underachiever, transient. These are samples of work that Stu has done this semester. These assignments are all electronic due to COVID-19. This is a cumulative exam in which he scored 74%. This is another assignment on which he scored 30%. And this is another assignment on which he scored 33%. The student did not want to appear on camera for live classes. The student had trouble completing asynchronous assignments on time. However, the student was capable and able to pass cumulative exams when needed. The student was affable and engaging in one-on-one conversations, but was reluctant to join class discussions. The student had good attendance throughout the first term. In mathematics, he scored in level 1, the beginning learner level, in all grades except second, where he scored in level 2, developing learner. In reading, the student scored in the developing level for all CRCT and EOC exams. Regarding language, Stu exceeded on the grade 3 CRCT. Otherwise, he scored in level 2. In social studies, our scores were in level 2, and in science, our scores level 1. There has been high growth shown on half of the CRCT and EOC exams. Using the article Profile for the Gifted and Talented by George Betts, I believe Stu to be classified as a gifted dropout. Betts, 1988. This profile was developed based on his behavior in my classes and analysis of his grades and student transiency. In my class, he seemed spaced out at times. On one occasion, while working on an online assignment, the online program showed that Stu spent only 5 of 30 minutes actively engaged. On other occasions, I had to send text messages or have the paraprofessional call him because he did not respond to in-class prompts. Based on his course report from the statewide longitudinal data system, there has been an exponential increase in the student's absences. He had 3 days absent in 8th grade, 21 days absent in 9th grade, and 40 days absent in 10th grade. Also relevant is the fact that the student has attended 4 high schools since August 2017. Stu's transiency has seriously affected his chance of completing high school. The enrollment data shows that he started 9th grade at McNair High School in August 2017. He then transferred to Towers High School in April 2018. In August 2018, he started the Columbia High Adult Education Program. Then after 2 months, returned to Towers High. He was then retained in 10th grade at Towers High in August 2019, but transferred to McNair High in January 2020. Finally, in March 2020, he transferred to Elizabeth Andrews High School. Student 1 took the Diablo Valley College Learning Style Survey on October 12, 2020. Stu scored 22 points for visual/nonverbal learning. On the other hand, he scored 22 points for visual/verbal learning. His highest score was 34 points for tactile/kinesthetic learning. He also scored 18 points for auditory/verbal learning. The results indicated that Stu is a tactile/kinesthetic learner. Stu learns best when engaged physically with hands-on activities. In-class demonstrations, fieldwork, and physical movement would also be beneficial. Taking a stand and stretch break between virtual classes would also help. Diablo Valley College, 2017. Student 1 took both the Multiple Intelligence Survey and the Multiple Intelligences Inventory on October 8, 2020. The results of the multiple intelligence survey indicated that Stu is bodily kinesthetic. That's his multi-intelligency. The intelligence's inventory also indicated that the greatest strength was a kinesthetic strength, 70 points. To build on these skills, he needs to seek to interact with his environment. He needs to use hands-on activities. Kinesthetic students can remain focused on a hands-on task for an extended period of time. They may demonstrate strong fine and/or gross motor ability. They may prefer learning centers to seat work. They may seek out other students who are physically gregarious. Master a principle once they can manipulate materials that demonstrate the concept, and they may enjoy group games and active learning tasks. Stu lives with his mother but spends most of his time with an older sister. For most of his life, he lived with his maternal grandmother, who died 2 years ago. About that time, he started skipping classes. The student exhibits some signs of depression. Stability has been an issue as Stu has attended 2 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 4 different high schools. In fact, we had to postpone his interview because he was in the process of moving. A look at his course history indicates that he is no longer taking courses taught by teachers who are gifted certified. At the high school level, gifted programs in mathematics focus on acceleration. He had a grade of 16 in the last such class he took, accelerated coded algebra / analytical geometry in 9th grade. The following is an excerpt of the student interview. Ms. Parchment, did you start gifted classes in elementary school? Stu, yes. Ms. Parchment, how was it? Stu, it was regular, basically it was regular class to me. Mr. Parchment, what were your grades like in elementary? Stu, in elementary school, I was passing everything. Mr. Parchment, what about middle school? Stu, middle school got hard. Mr. Parchment, you said middle school got hard. Were you in gifted classes then? Stu, in middle school? Mr. Parchment, yes. Stu, yeah. Mr. Parchment, where was that? Stu, McNair. Mr. Parchment, do you remember having a meeting with your parent and teachers like once a year? Stu, no. Mr. Parchment, what were the difficult subjects in middle school? Stu, math and science. Mr. Parchment, did you get tutoring? Stu, I never was the type of person that asked for help. Mr. Parchment, did the teachers offer help? Stu, yeah, they offered. Mr. Parchment, English and social studies were good? Stu, yeah. Mr. Parchment, socially, did you get along with everybody? Stu, yeah. I've always been able to get along with everybody. Mr. Parchment, were you bored in high school? Stu, yes. Mr. Parchment, do you have any plans for after high school? Stu, I do not really know. Mr. Parchment, do you have any hobbies? Stu, what do you consider a hobby? Parent and teacher interview summaries. A summary of the interview of the parent of student 1 reveals that Stu learned to read at an early age with the help of his grandmother. He liked to read comics and about sports. He played wide receiver in middle school. His grandmother raised him most of his life and she died 2 years ago. He spends a lot of time thinking to himself. Stu has told his mother that he wants to have his own clothing line. A summary of the teacher interview reveals that Stu does not complete assignments, sometimes daydreams in class, and will exit the synchronous class early. And currently, Stu is in danger of failing. Gifted characteristics displayed by student 1 include a diversity of interests and abilities, the fact that he was an early reader, an ability to fantasize, and self-acceptance. Strengths displayed by student 1 include an ability to have a good relationship with everyone. The student is insightful and introspective. The student accepts his failures. Weaknesses displayed by student 1 include the fact that he daydreams in class, that he's a slow starter, and he does not complete many assignments. The preferred teaching/learning style for student 1 include sitting near the front of the class and taking notes, reading aloud and walking back and forth while studying with flashcard textbooks or notes, using flashcards with steps in a sequence to build automaticity, creating a model or spending time in the field of interest, for example, the zoo or the museum, acting out processes and procedures. Educational options/enrichment programs for student 1 include introduction to fashion design based on a parent interview, exploration of technical school, counseling to rule out major depression, mentorships, internships. Conclusion. Initially, I wondered if Stu was in the gifted program because he would have failed the first course he took with me if he had not passed the final exam. He is a kinesthetic learner who is taking virtual classes. This must be extremely difficult because learning virtually as designed by most programs and teachers is the opposite of what kinesthetic learners need. The realization that he may be still dealing with the grief of his grandmother's death also helps explain why he ended up at a non-traditional high school. References from Betts, Diablo Valley College, and Mackenzie.